Hi friends, it's Kayla Moran and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How is everybody doing today? Happy Thursday, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time you're listening. So happy to be back on the mic with you guys. Honestly, I feel like I'm in a really good place and I'm so happy about that. Like you guys know, the last month has just been an emotional roller coaster. Entrepreneurship usually is. And I've been going through a lot of healing and reflections and self-awareness, and several people in the last week have told me how proud of me they are of recognizing my faults and my growth, and recognizing that I have been feeling a little bit more jealous lately of certain people in my life, and it's something internal in me that I need to work on. And just catching up after a year or 2 years of talking to people from law school or going to networking events, and you get the question of, oh, what do you do? And saying what I do, and people are like, wow, that's really cool, like that's such an interesting combination. I think that's really cool that you're doing that. I'm proud of you for going after what you want. Like things like that have just been really putting it into perspective for me that I'm doing a lot better than I think I am, and that has kind of given me the confidence to not care anymore what people think. We're always our worst critic, and I'm not gonna say that I won't have bad days or moments where I let the imposter syndrome or the doubt creep in. That's always gonna happen. But despite all of those things, like I'm really proud of where I've come from and how far I've come and everything that I've built and am building, and I'm excited to see where that takes me. And I know I've been saying that for a lot and it's really kind of cryptic, but it's true. And I just, every morning I wake up anxious of like all the things that are going wrong, but I'm actively choosing to focus on the things that are going right and all the things I can do in one day to make those things better and to challenge those feelings and thoughts to show myself that I am worthy and I do deserve it and that everything is working. And making that conscious choice it's hard, but it's been good for me. And yeah, I just thought I would share that if anyone else is kind of going through a similar phase. I think May was rough for a lot of people, I kind of keep hearing. And I know a lot of people that are just struggling with career and work, and if this is the path that they're meant to be on, or choosing to follow a different path, a calling that they have. And, I hope that, you lean into whatever it is that you feel you are meant to be doing and not care what people think, because the more you do, the more you inspire the people around you to follow what they're meant to be doing. And that is something that ripple effect is so, so powerful. And it is so, I don't know, at least to me, it's really rewarding. So I want you guys to be able to experience that. And I don't know, I thought I would share that with you guys. I'm feeling a little, sentimental today, I guess. Also, if you're in Canada or New York or up north, and you're being affected by the smoke and the wildfires and the air quality, I hope that everyone is okay and that you guys are able to stay indoors, or if you have to go outside, be protected, wearing masks and all of that. I know we thought we were done with the masks, but, we have to make sure that our health is our priority. Health is wealth. I actually did a TikTok about that recently because there was just some health stuff going on for me too. I went to the doctor, got my annual checkup and pap smear. Thankfully, everything came back good for the first time in 4 years. My tests all came back positive, and everything is good. And that just, it was really, really nice. And so I talked about it on TikTok and got a little vulnerable on there, which I usually reserve for the podcast, but I thought I would bring it to TikTok for a little while. But yeah, over here in Miami, it is hot and humid like usual. Swim week has begun. It's usually in July. It's in June this year, which is very strange. So I'm excited to go to a couple of events. Didn't get invited to many, but a few, and it's a start. I'm just really I'm trying to be more of a yes girl, like, and say yes to more opportunities and events and things going on, and trying to show up for as many things as I can within reason, within my budget, within my schedule. Because the more I show up for things and people, and the more I put myself out there, the more opportunities are going to come my way. And that's what this year is about for me, just saying yes to more things and being more present in the moment and go with the flow, more spontaneous. And so far it has been working very, very well for me. And I've gotten to reconnect with people from college or from law school, or meet new people and really build some great friendships, and work opportunities have come my way, and things have just been going really, really good for me. So I wanted to share that with you guys and inspire you and encourage you to maybe do the same. Hot girl summer in our delusional girl era, whatever you want to call it, but just leaning into what makes you happy, what makes you passionate, what fuels you, and where you want to go. Like, don't let anybody stand in your way of that, and make sure you're taking care of yourself and putting yourself first, and listening to your intuition, and just being open to the opportunities that life will present you when you are actively in alignment with who you're really meant to be and what makes you happy. And I'm not going to say that life isn't going to be tough at times, but I think it gets a lot easier and a lot more fun when you are just, really in line with who you are and who you're meant to be. And with that, I want to do a quick suck and sweet of the week, and then we'll dive right into this week's guest. My suck of the week is that on that date I went on a couple of weeks ago, I sprained my ankle really bad, and it's still hurting me 2 weeks later. Mostly because I haven't really stopped. I just, I keep walking and I keep going out and doing things, and I haven't really worn heels that much, but definitely not giving it the rest it needs has been hard. But what's another? And also I think too, just like these like emotional like feelings, like these reflections episodes, like they're not fun, they're definitely emotionally draining, but it's been good for me to go through that, because I have a feeling about this summer. I've been saying that for a while if you've been following here, and you kind of need to go through those down days to really appreciate the good ones. And I know that there's a lot to come the next few months this summer, and just the life that I'm building for myself. And my sweet of the week is that I got to see some friends, got brunch a couple of times, went to the beach, laid by the pool, have a really good tan going, and just being outside in nature with friends and having a good time, catching up, reconnecting with people, meeting people at networking events. Like that has just been really fun for me, and it fuels me. I'm the type of person that I need to completely deplete my battery in social settings and get to zero, and then rest and replenish, and then I have to spend it all again. And I just been going through that phase of being really introspective and not really wanting to go out and do things and be around people. But now I feel like I'm in that social like time to deplete the energy and go out and have fun and loosen up. And it's a cycle, it goes in waves for sure, but I feel good about the next few weeks. I'm just excited for all the events and the opportunities with swim week, and just meeting people and making plans to do things. And yeah, my brother's gonna teach me to go play golf. We're gonna go golf with some of my mom's coworkers that are our age. She invites us to networking events with them so they can meet people since they're not from Miami. And for my brother who's looking for a job, and for me to just network and make friends and all of that. So it's been good. I'm excited for what's to come, like I said, and I think this summer's gonna be a good one. So I'm excited to bring you guys along, and I hope that you guys are all having a good start to your summer and to your June, and that you guys listen to yourselves and what really makes you happy and what you want, because I think not enough people do that, and it's something really powerful when we do, and I want that for you guys. But yeah, if you like this episode, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe to the show, share with a friend, tag us as you're listening. Let me know what you want to see next, who you want to hear from next, and how I can make Let's Get Candid your favorite podcast to listen to every week. I totally forgot to introduce this week's guest. My bad. This week is Danni. She is a fellow Miami blogger and influencer. She's a fashion girly. She loves pink and bows and hair clips and makeup, and she works at Dr. Dennis Gross, and which is one of my favorite skincare brands. And we talk all about how she got into the blogging space, how she got her job at Dr. Dennis Gross, the different career paths that led her there, and the lessons she's learned along the way, and how she balances both being a creator and working in a corporate job, and which I feel like is very rare. So many people want to become full-time creators and not have to do a corporate job, but she is someone, we talk about how she knew that having a corporate job was the right path for her, and she went back to that. And yeah, we just have a really great conversation. It's fun catching up with people, and especially that I know in real life, and getting to hear their story and how they got their start and what makes them, create the content that they do and show up the way that they do. And if you like fashion and working with brands, there's a lot of info in here for you to do so. So definitely a great episode to check out. And yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Meet Danni. So Danni, what's something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
Oh gosh, I was not expecting that question. Let me think. I think I'm kind of quirky and funny, but I don't really come off that way on social media at all. I don't really post funny content. I feel like I try my best and be cute and like post fashion and pink. And I don't think people realize that I'm a little bit more sassy in person and quirky and funny than I am on social media, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you do that intentionally? Or like, is that like, so that this is a big topic lately for me on the podcast, like keeping like a part of ourselves private for ourselves, for our friends and family. And that's super important. And you have to be conscious of that. So do you purposely choose not to portray that side of your personality for privacy reasons, or it just doesn't, like, that's not the image you want to portray? Like, because it's hard balancing, like being, I always say, like, I'm 100% offline who I am
Mhm.
online, but there's more to me offline. And I know you're the same way. You're very much who you are online, but there's more to you offline. So do you like intentionally choose not to share the fun, quirky side of you? Or it just like you never started it and like now you keep that to yourself?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much I just never I'm not the kind of person to like grab my phone and just like start talking on stories and just go on and on. Like it's so rare that you'll even see me talking on my stories, to be honest. So I think that's why it's not necessarily intentional. It's just I feel like I do like to keep things a little bit more private, and I like to just stick to fashion and beauty. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like anybody really cares about my life, which maybe that might sound like a little bit odd, but I'm just not one to really go in depth with the details about, my life and my boyfriend, etc. So I don't know. I think I just like keeping it separate. And I also have a friend who specifically told me like that's what I love about your page. You just like stick to the fun stuff, which is like the clothes and all the pink and the stores and everything. And you're not out here like getting emotional on Instagram or you know having having like coming off like I don't know how to explain it. It's just I think I like just to keep them separate, if that makes sense.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, I think as I've gotten older and now that I'm in a career where I by nature can't share everything, my personal content has gotten even less personal. And it like I share even less than I used to. I've always been more of a lifestyle than fashion. Like you're more fashion, so you don't really need to share your lifestyle. That's not your niche.
Yeah.
And you cultivated a brand for yourself in that way, and that's why you don't have to share. And I think for me, I always was more lifestyle, so I was sharing inherently more of that stuff. And I think as I've gotten older, there's just more I want to keep private. And I think the
Yeah.
beauty is that we can kind of evolve and change and switch it up sometimes. And yeah, people are going to be like, they're going to ask you questions like, oh, I want to know more about this. And you have the choice of whether you want to answer or not. And no one can say, like, you used to share it and now you don't. Like, why not? It's like, because I just chose not to. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And you can change it whenever you want. But I think there's a lot to be said for having never gone there because you wanted to keep it fun and light. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just everyone kind of approaches social media differently, and it's cool to see how you approached it all along. When did you start creating content? It's like I've been following you forever, but you've grown quite a lot recently. When did it start? How did it start? Like to walk us
Yeah.
through getting started on social media.
So I started, it feels like forever ago, but I started back in 2017. But my intention wasn't to be like a quote unquote influencer. It was more so to be a blogger. I loved writing blogs specifically about like makeup and skincare. So I started a blog when I was in junior in college. And so if there was like a new product out there at Sephora that was like super popular, I would buy it and I would do a review on it. So my main thing and like my baby was my blog. I absolutely loved doing that. And so I did that for a few years. And with Instagram, I mean, I would post every now and then, but it wasn't like I wanted to gain a following. I just really wanted to drive people to the blog. So I used Instagram as a support system for the blog. And I will say at that point in 2017 or 2018, I still had a lot of opportunity with just the blog. I mean, I was getting invited to beauty events like Laura Mercier, Bare Minerals, Pharmacy. And I think that it really did work for me at the time. It's unfortunate that now blogs aren't really a thing anymore because I thought that it was so much fun. But I think now people are more in tune with like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So I did the blog for a few years and then the pandemic hit, and that's when I really started focusing and honing in more on Instagram. So I started doing like mere selfies, and that worked for me for, I want to say like 6 months. Like I would just start doing mere selfies. And then that's when I started reaching out to brands, and brands started reaching out to me, and I just started getting so much clothes, and I was like, okay, like this is like this could be something. And I started seeing more success in Instagram versus just like doing the blogs. So for that period of time, I kind of like let go of the blog a little bit and started just really focusing on Instagram. And then pretty much I've just been doing Instagram since then. So I think how long have I been creating content for? Well, since 2017. But in terms of Instagram, I think I'd say like 2020.
Yeah, that's cool. I started with the blog in college too, and I loved it. And sometimes I still go back and read my own blog posts, or like when people ask me a question, I'm like, oh, I have a blog post on this. And then I reread them and I'm like, damn, that was so like I miss these days. But
Yeah.
yeah, during the pandemic, we all kind of had to switch over to Instagram because it just made more sense that way. But it's cool to see someone else who got started back then. And it's also, I didn't know that you were getting brand deals and working with brands at that point too, back when it was just the blog. That is really cool. And I just think it's so cool how like to see how people's journeys have evolved and how we've evolved.
Yeah.
Like even like, you start though, not just like the medium you were sharing it in, but also the content you were sharing. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
started doing mirror selfies on Instagram, and then brands started sending you stuff or inviting you to friend like, oh, like I can share this. Like, let me start doing that. And then that
Yeah.
picks up and you just keep it going. And it's important to always keep it fresh and try new things and see what works and see what doesn't. And that's what allows us to have the longevity. And it's not about going viral. It's about keeping consistent and, building a community. And I think you've been able to do that because you're willing to try out different things, which is cool.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think the mirror selfies again, it worked for a good chunk of time, but after a certain point, like I just wasn't getting a lot of engagement on it, and I was just like, okay, the mirror selfies are done, they're dead. So that's when I started, I guess, like shooting more by myself or like with other people, and now it's just become, I guess, like what it is.
Yeah. So you started in college, you know, are you a full-time like on Instagram or TikTok, or do you have a job? Like how did you balance back then versus what you're doing now? Like is this a full-time thing for you?
It's not a full-time thing, it's part-time for now. Um, but I do have a full-time job, which I obviously love, and we can chat about more in a little bit. But I think back in 2017 or 2020, it was a little bit easier for me just because I didn't necessarily see it as a job. Now I do. So back then, I mean, if I didn't post for 2 weeks, like it wasn't a big deal. I didn't care. Um, and back then, I also wasn't getting paid for things. So if I didn't meet a specific deadline, it was like, okay, what are you going to do about it? So I think back then it was much more easier than it is now. I think now I basically get my content done on the weekends just because Monday through Friday I am working at my my job. And thankfully now with like daylight savings, if it's like 6 o'clock, I can maybe go and shoot because it is still super beautiful and sunny. So yeah, that's pretty much how I balance things. Monday through Friday is for my full-time job, and then Saturday, Sunday is for content creation.
Yeah. And do you like even at night, like do you do admin stuff during the weekday or you strictly stick to Monday through Friday work and then weekends for
Yeah,
content creation?
I feel like I'm always doing admin stuff, to be honest. Like I'll check my email every hour. If I need to send an invoice, like I'll do that on the side. Like I feel like I'm always checking my email and I'm always on top of that. But in terms of content creation, that's more so like on the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, same. I have a million different emails and I'm checking all of them. Like if I
Oh
check
yeah.
one, I have this compulsive need to check all of them to see if anything has changed. It's honestly a problem. Talk a little bit about your job. Like what, what what was the first job you got out of college? Like and how has that really allowed you to get into the job you're in now? Was it because I know you do influencer marketing at a company now. Were you
Yeah.
always influencer marketing? Were you, like what did you study? What was your first job out of college? Like walk us through the career evolution.
Yeah. So in college I studied, sorry, PR and marketing. And so I did an internship at a cruise line for a year, and I absolutely loved that company. Um, and then after a year, I switched over to full time, and it was kind of more in like an admin role. And I was in that admin role, I think, for about 2 years. And at one point, I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, I wasn't doing marketing. I wasn't happy. I absolutely loved the company and it opened so many doors for me. But at the end of the day, like, I just wasn't doing marketing. So again, like when the pandemic hit, we started working remote. That's when I was like, okay, like I don't mind the job that much because I'm here at home and it was okay for me. But then it was like return to office. And then that's when I was like, I've been, working remote for like a year now. I'm not going back to the office. No way. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm not doing marketing. I'm not passionate about this role. Now they want me to drive an hour every day. Like this is just not working for my lifestyle anymore. And it was really difficult for me to leave because I get really attached to jobs and I get really attached to team members and companies and just like a specific lifestyle. So it was really hard for me to leave. But at that point I was like, I can no longer do this. So I left to another another business, and it was a small business, and I feel like that was just worse. Honestly, I was miserable. I worked there for a few months and it was probably like the worst experience of my life. It wasn't anything against the company. I just wasn't used to working for such a small company because the company I was at before was a huge corporation where I had a manager who would check in on me and we had meetings every day. And so going from something a little bit more corporate versus a fresh new startup was not easy for me. I didn't like it. Um, so that was definitely really difficult for me. I had a lot of anxiety. I would cry every day just because I was like, oh my gosh, like I left my job at the cruise line to now do something that, I'm not loving. And at the startup, I was doing social media, but again, like it was for a brewing company. And like, I'm not really passionate about beer. I absolutely love beer, but is my dream to create content about beer? Not really. So I knew what I wanted. Like ever since I was 16 years old, like my dream was always to work in beauty. I just feel like in Miami that is very difficult to do because there aren't a lot of beauty companies, or I should say like a lot of beauty companies within marketing. So I never even thought that I would have the opportunity to work in beauty, but it's something I always wanted to do. And so I pretty much manifested the shit out of my job. To be completely honest, like I'm really big on manifestation. I was so depressed at the startup brewing company that I was like, I need to get out of here, like ASAP. So I basically wrote down what I wanted, like, and I knew what I wanted. I wanted to work in the influencer industry. I wanted to work in beauty. I wanted it to be for a brand that I truly loved and was cruelty free. And then I had interviews for multiple roles until eventually finally like I landed the job at Dr. Dennis Gross. And honestly, it's been like the best job I've ever had. Um and I just want to say that manifesting like it is a thing. It
Oh,
really is.
100%. I think it's really funny that you preferred the corporate life more than a small business. I feel like that's you don't hear that nowadays, which I think is really refreshing to hear that you actually enjoyed and you wished you would have stayed at a corporate job
Yeah.
And you kind of did go back to that in a different role in a new way, which is why you're so much happier. And I think it's really important to recognize that you don't have to go the route that everybody else is going just because everybody else is doing it. Like if you know what you want and what works for you, stick to that. And you did. You stuck to the 16-year-old version of you, what you wanted then. It was still at that time in your 20s what you wanted, and you found a way to make it happen for yourself. And you not only did you manifest it, you put in the work to do it. You reached out and you started applying to roles that were going to allow you to get back to where you wanted to be. It wasn't that cruise line anymore because
Hmm.
that wasn't exactly the right fit, but it was closer to, and you acknowledged like, okay, that is more what I want. Let me look for companies in beauty that are going to give me that feeling. And it worked out for you. So I think I wanted to mention that too, because I think so many people nowadays are like, let me be an entrepreneur, go work for a small business so I can get the
Yeah.
flexibility, the lifestyle, the this, the that, and not necessarily is that the best path for them, because
Hmm.
maybe they are better suited for corporate, and you knew that you were better suited for corporate, and you took that
Yeah.
into account. Where did you look for these roles? Like, okay, once you knew like I want to be in social media, I want to be in influencer marketing, I want to do like corporate world, like where do you go look for these roles? And how did you like when did you know like, okay, like I want to be in influencer marketing, I want to work in corporate and influencer marketing, and where do you find these jobs for people who want to work in this?
Well, I think I always wanted to work in influencer marketing, like I think straight out of college, just because I am on the other side. So I think I've always been curious to being like the influencer manager or coordinator, etc. So I was always very curious and wanted to expand a little bit more on that. Unfortunately, I just wasn't really doing that at the cruise line, but I pretty much just looked on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a great source. It's just a little bit overwhelming because there are so many applicants. But to be completely honest, like I really made my resume, you know, to fit my personality. I'm pretty sure my resume was like pink. And I think it's okay to do that if you're in marketing. Obviously, if you are in a more, serious role like you are, and I wouldn't, recommend like a very
Yeah,
vibrant,
I was
you
gonna
know.
say, I agree. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
for lawyers and like med school and things like that, like black and white is good.
Yeah,
If
100%.
you're in a more creative role where they're gonna be more open and conducive to that, and they want to see creative expression, and you're sending a portfolio or something like that, then yeah, go ahead and decorate it and make it your own, because that's what they're
Yeah.
looking for. They're hiring you to be that.
Yeah, so I pretty much just made my resume really fun, and then I just made sure to stay in touch with the hiring manager. I think that's the most important part. I don't think that just applying for a job on LinkedIn is enough. I think you need to take the extra step and really chat with multiple people within the company and just try to get your foot in the door. I think that's the best thing you can do if you really want a job. And honestly, this it's been like my dream job, and I'm so happy. And I mean, I feel like if you are in a place where you are super unhappy and you feel lost, like just know like it does get better. It really does. Because I was miserable for months and I would never thought that I'd be able, to be so happy at my job. But, it worked out for me.
Yeah, I can say the same. I've been talking about a lot on the podcast how I feel like I'm the best I've ever been, and you and I were talking offline, like kind of the evolution of my career and why I went the route that I went, and compared to my contemporaries, people who are in my same place in their career at different companies, and yeah, I think like I said before, it's a lot about taking into account what works for you and what you want, and making your career fit that lifestyle that you want, and how you want to feel at work, and who you want to surround yourself with, not just in friendships and relationships, but your career too, because you spend so much of your time at work that you want to enjoy what you're doing. And
100%.
and
Yeah.
I think that's really cool that that was exactly what you did and exactly what I did. And yeah, it does get better. You got to put in the work. You
Mhm.
can manifest and you can pray, but you also have to put in the work. But it
Yeah.
can get so much better if you're willing to do something about it. And I think it's a testament to you, to me, to anyone who is doing this whole like influencer thing. Like
Yeah.
people are willing to just figure it out and make an industry that has so many unknowns and so many avenues. Like there's so many ways to be an influencer or a content creator or do social media. There's so many ways to do it now. And I think just combining your skill sets and your passions and finding a way to make it work for you. Like there's so much to be said for that.
Yeah.
Um, so talking about LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. Anyone who listens to my podcast knows I am a LinkedIn fiend. How did you like what did you say when you reached out to these brands? Like when you were making these connections with people in the companies that you wanted to work at so you could get more information. And so like if they're like, oh, like her like, oh, that name sounds familiar. Yeah, she sent me a LinkedIn message or oh, I've seen her resume. Like so people
Yeah.
would recognize your name. Like what was your message to them? What was your email? What did you include?
Yeah, I pretty much just included the fact that, I was passionate about their company and that I am a small creator myself. So I understood, pretty much the job. I think just, keeping it short and straight to the point was really helpful for me. I think that sometimes like the long emails can get a little bit like overwhelming. So I just really introduced myself, kept it genuine and just expressed my interest in the company and explained why I wanted to work there. I think explaining why you want to work somewhere is a huge deal. And I think that recruiters can respect that for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I always say like my little like pitch template is always like introduce myself, you know, I see that you work at this. I would love to learn more about your role. I I love the company. I've been using it for this long or I've been going there or whatever, if it's a service, a good, whatever it is. I would love to work at that company. I would love to do like what you do. I would love to learn more about how you like bring it back to them. They want to talk about themselves. How did you get into that role? How can I do what you do? Like what can I be doing now while I'm still in school or while I'm trying to figure out what I want to do like, you know, how can I do that? I would love to chat with you. Here's my availability.
Yeah.
Look forward to speaking to you. And like you kind of take the guesswork out of it. They know why you're reaching out. They know a little bit about you. There's something to talk about and you're giving them a time and a date. Like,
Yeah. 100%. I think people expect to just, get interviews just by hitting the apply button on LinkedIn. That's not enough, especially when there are I mean, even in the beauty industry, so many applicants. It's like you can't just apply to a job and expect to hear back. You really have to put in the work and do some research. And it takes a lot of time, honestly, but it's all worth it in the end.
yeah, I think applying to a job is a full-time job.
Oh my gosh, seriously. I totally agree.
But so you work in influencer marketing in two different ways. We were just talking about like there's so many ways to do it
Yeah.
and you do it in two. You work in a corporate company doing influencer marketing and you
Mhm.
work on a brand side. And then you also are an influencer yourself. How do they both challenge you like and you clearly get something out of both ways of being in it. Like what are the like what do you get out of each one and how do they challenge you?
Well, I mean, I think in my role, you know, at Dr. Dennis, it could be challenging just because there are so many influencers out there. Like this market, I mean, it's incredibly saturated. I'm sure you've heard. And so I think it's about finding the right partner and then also building on the relationship and then there's just like so many different personalities. Like for the most part, all of my experiences within my company have been amazing. And I'm talking about like my experiences with other influencers. For the most part, everyone is very respectful and kind. But of course, sometimes you come across influencers who are like extremely overpriced or they are very rude. So I think that is a little bit challenging sometimes. But at the end of the day, like I always put myself in the influencer's shoes because I also do the same kind of work. So I could understand why sometimes influencers can be a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, but a little bit, I guess, sassy. And I
Yeah.
think on the influencer side, I guess being content creator, what's challenging for me is I think just doing it by myself. Like sometimes I am like, I wish I had an assistant or something because getting content for me is a little bit difficult, I will say, because I get a lot of it myself. So having to go out and shoot, I mean, I freak out when I shoot in public. I like the second I see a person, I literally run away
I
in my
get so
car. Like,
uncomfortable.
nope, 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 nope. And it just gives me so much anxiety. And I've heard a lot of stories of people shooting, in public and having men approach them. And like, I thankfully have never had like a scary situation like that. I've never been threatened. It's been more so like men asking me, like, what are you doing? But even then, like, that makes me cry. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I immediately am like, okay, I have to leave. Like it just makes me uncomfortable. So I think as a content creator, the most difficult thing for me is having to do it alone. And then also, not everybody understands sometimes. Like, if I'm on vacation and I need to shoot an outfit, I feel like people might be like, it's not that serious. We can shoot it later. And it's like, no, 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 but like I need to get the shot. And so I don't think that people understand how difficult it could be getting content. So yeah, I don't even, I'm sure you feel my pain.
Yeah. I always joke that I'm a shitty influencer because I forget sometimes, like, I'm having so much fun at dinner or out or at an event or on vacation that I know I should take content and I wanted to, like, that was my intention, but then I forget because I'm actually having fun, and it's hard to remember to be, like, present and also, like, create the content because
Oh my God.
you
Yeah.
one, it's your job, and two, you want to. And then the other side is, yeah, like, people just don't get it. So I, like,
think
struggled
I'm
with
like,
both sides.
yeah, I think that's funny that you mentioned that because I think I'm like the complete opposite, to be honest. I'm that kind of person that it's like if I'm on vacation or I'm doing like a food collab or something, like the first thing I want to do is just get the content out of the way with so that then I can have fun. But then it's like frustrating if it's like not coming out good because then like the whole day's ruined. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
have both. I think I'm both. It just depends. Like, some days it's one or the other, or yeah, then I get frustrated, or it depends on my mood. And I think it also depends on who I'm with. Like, I my parents now, they get it. Like, they're used to it. They understand. My mom takes my content. It's fine. When I'm out with friends and stuff, or like or other influencers, and like they're over here taking content, I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that too. But I was actually having a good time, so then I forgot. Um, but it's hard, definitely balancing, living in the moment and being present and creating the content. And I
this.
think and I think that's I think that's actually a big, like, critique that people have of influencers. It's like, are you actually like, is this really your life? Or are you just, like, creating
Yeah.
content? Like, and it's like, at least for me, it's like, no, it's really my life. I like taking pretty pictures too. Like, I can do both, but sometimes it's hard to do both.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been working at this company, I think, a year now, right? Or a little bit more than a year?
Yeah. Over a year. Yes.
It's so crazy. I remember I started following you, I think, like, in the pandemic time. So I've, like, seen the evolution of, like, your career, and it's crazy how time flies.
I
But
know.
how do you balance it now? Like, besides, like the schedule, like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday is work and then content creation, but just, not being able to share certain aspects of your job, and other aspects of it you can share because you are an influencer too and you work with them,
Yeah.
and you can share, like, the events and, like, the pretty stuff. Has that been difficult, like, knowing what you can share about your career, or do people ask you about your job, like, how did you get
Um,
it and stuff like that?
I get a few comments of like, "Oh, like, how did you land this role?" But I really don't give too much detail about it just because I wanna keep it separate, and I also don't wanna say anything that I'm not allowed to say. I mean, they've never told me, "Oh, you can't say XYZ," you know what I mean? But I try to just keep both separate. I mean, I'm always talking about the products. I really love the brand, so I think that's the most that I've spoken about the brand. I've never really gone in depth about, like, my experience working there or about like influencers I've encountered. I haven't done that. I don't know if I would want to, but really my experience at the company has just been like so great. Maybe I should share more about it to be honest, like now that you've asked, just because it has been a really great experience and I love the events and being able to travel and whatnot. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. It's hard, I think, to know, like, what you can share and what you should share. And yeah, like, for me, if things are going really, really well, I tend to not share as much. So maybe it makes sense why you want to keep that to yourself
Yeah.
and private, mostly because, yeah, you don't know what you can and can't share, like, but also you want to keep that for yourself. And I think that's totally fair. I was just curious, like, because you don't really share that. And I, again, wasn't sure if it was,
Yeah.
like, intentional or not. But I think I honestly, like, I like that you, like, I aspire that. I want that. I want to be a little bit more, like, to the vest and, like, private. And I think I'm getting there. I'm working on it. But I think it is hard to navigate, like, when we started off, doing it in
Mhm.
college, and, like, sharing more about our lives. And as we get older, recognizing, like, we can't share as much as we used to because it's not just us anymore. There's
Yeah.
there's people involved, there's companies involved, life happens.
Oh my
um
gosh, and that's funny that you say that because I remember one time, this was years ago, like when I worked at the cruise line, I had written a blog post and it like I think it was like an about me post or something. And I had mentioned that like I'm not a morning person at all. And somehow like someone from HR like found it and I got in trouble. They were like, "Oh, we saw that you have a post saying that you're not a morning person. Like that's not a good reflection on our company. Like you should like take it down. And I was just like, oh dear God, okay.
Yeah. See, what we
So
were talking about offline, that's exactly
yeah.
things like that that are so, you think they're so stupid and they like, it's like, really? And actually I posted something about that on my story the other day of like, do you care what time it looks like I started working on Instagram? Like, does that actually make you want to work with me more or less? Cause like, I'm not a morning person. Like I'm most productive between like 10 and 6. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to do stuff before 10 a.m.
Mhm.
It doesn't work that way. I'm going to have to, but like
Yeah.
in an ideal world. So like, if you leave it up to me, I probably won't start working until 10 because I'm willing to work later into the day, but
Yeah.
I like my slow mornings, and that shouldn't be a reflection of my work ethic or what I'm willing to put into the company or the company itself. And I think
Yeah. Like,
sometimes like brands
care.
just don't get that.
I know. Although I wish I was like one of those girlies who like woke up super early to like go do Pilates. Like my coworker Anna is she like loves to work out in the morning, and I'm like, I physically don't know how you do that because I wake up at 8:30, and even then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to like get up now. And like I feel like for most people 8:30 is pretty late. So
No, I'm the same way. I wake up between 8
so
and 8:30, so I feel you.
yeah, and I'm like telling her, I'm like, you inspire me so much because she goes on her morning workouts and like she's like super awake and alive by the time we have like our daily meetings at 9 a.m. And I'm just like, okay, can't relate, but I love that for you.
I know I want to be a morning workout girl so bad. Like the mornings that I do it, I'm like, why don't I do this more often? Like this was amazing. If I'm productive before noon, I'm like, awesome. I want to do this again. But the next day, have all the intention in the world. It will not happen because I'm tired from not having gotten as much sleep
Mhm.
as I did the day before.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, this is dumb. Like, what the heck? This doesn't make any sense. But so no, I'm with you. My alarm is set for 7, but 90% of the time I'm not getting out of bed until like 8 a.m. And I
Okay, then 7 is so early.
well, it's just because I tend to have to answer emails. So like I'm in bed or like I'm drinking my coffee and I'm like answering emails, but like I'm not necessarily like fully
Right,
functioning.
like working, yeah, like
I'm
quote unquote,
working.
like online.
Yeah. I try not to be online until 9, but it's hard. Like I love a slow morning. I want to be a workout in the morning kind of girl. It's just I'm not that girl.
Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Sorry.
Do you, speaking of wellness and like working out, like do you have a wellness routine? Do you
God.
when do you implement that? Because like me, like you do so much. You have two basically full-time jobs.
Mhm.
How do you make time for yourself? What are some of your favorite like wellness rituals?
Oh God, to be honest, I'm probably like the least active person in the entire world. Like I'd be lying if I told you I was like all about fitness and health because I'm totally not. I hate working out. I'd rather just like be at home watching TV, having a beer, but I do try and get a workout in like 3 to 4 times a week. The thing with me is that like I will go hardcore one week and be so proud of myself, and then the next week it's always something. It's either like I have an event or I'm hanging out with my boyfriend, or I got my period and I have cramps, so I don't want to work out, and
You're
so then like I
preaching to
won't work
the
out at all.
choir. This is literally me.
I won't work out at all. So then it's like, okay, I went hard one week and then literally did zero workouts another week. So I actually have a really hard time balancing like both jobs, my friendships, being a good daughter, being a good sister, being a good girlfriend, and then also working out. But I feel like lately I've been pretty good at it. I've been trying to go for a workout at like 5:36, like the second I get off work. That way I come home, I shower, and then I have time to either hang out with a friend or like invite my boyfriend over, etc. So I think it's just about like prioritizing what's important, and then also do like, okay, how do I explain this? Like I have a lot of like breaks in between the day. Like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna go for a snack or like, and I feel like it like cutting those breaks sometimes can help get things going quicker, if that makes sense. Like in after work,
Yeah.
typically like I would just lay down and like watch TikTok. Instead of doing that, it'd probably be much better for me to just go and put my workout clothes on and just head to the gym.
Yeah. I do that too. I take breaks during the day, go refill my water and go walk around
Yeah.
outside and get some sunshine in, or go to
Mhm.
the bathroom and like maybe I'll do like I used to during bar prep, I would either do squats in the bathroom or I would like answer like practice questions. So at least I wasn't like wasting time. So like I'll try to do that now. Maybe I'll like move my body for a little bit, do some jumping jacks, get the blood
Yeah.
flowing while I'm up since I got away from the computer for a second. But yeah, that's something I want to do since I'm not a morning person. I want to be better about when I do shut the computer off,
Yeah.
go and work out right at that moment. And like you said, like daylight savings and it's still nice out. I'm like, okay, like I want to make it a point to like once or twice a week go for a walk around my neighborhood
Mhm. Right.
and
Just
just
something to move your body. Yeah.
to move my body, to get outside, get away from the computer. But I like that you take breaks and for yourself. That's super important. I do that too, and I'm a big advocate of that. Where do you work out? Like, do you go to a gym? Do you do like a class
Yeah.
or an app?
So I go to the gym because I feel like once I'm there, I'm doomed. So I have to do a workout. I've tried, working out at home, but I'm just like, I'll do like 5 crunches and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm done. Like, I don't know. I'm just being really transparent with you.
No,
Like
please.
I am not one of those girlies who can work out at home. I think during the pandemic, I did have like a pretty good schedule. Like I would do this like a specific ab routine and then like a leg workout, and I was pretty solid during the pandemic. But then I just don't know what happened. I just cannot bring myself to do like an at-home workout. So I just go to the gym. So I'll do like incline walk, the stairmaster, and then some weights. Honestly, nothing crazy. I just really want to get my body moving, especially because I'm sitting like 8 hours in a day. Yeah, it's definitely important to just get the body moving.
Yeah. No, I think I'm the same way. I think part of it is because so much like during the pandemic, there wasn't anything really going on. So like
Yeah.
getting up and going for a workout, even if it was in your house, was something to do. Whereas now everything is back. Like there's so much to do that gets, thrown away sometimes.
Yeah.
And also like you don't want to work out at home sometimes because you want to get out of the house because we do work remote or hybrid nowadays, most people, you know.
Yeah. I think also if you like find someone to work out with, it could be helpful. Like sometimes I'll go with my mom or I'll go with my boyfriend. So that's a little bit helpful too.
Yeah, I wish I had like someone to go on walks with, or yeah, like for someone to take me to the gym with me, because if I'm with someone and they're like motivating me, I'm a lot more willing to do it. But if it's just me, like yeah, I'll scroll TikTok or I'll read a book or I'll
Yeah.
watch TV. Like there's so many other things I'd rather be doing. What is your favorite type of content to create? So you're mostly in fashion and beauty. Which do you prefer either one? Like what do you like creating most?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I definitely like doing fashion. I love shooting at the beach. Whenever my friend Isa is in town, we like typically head to the beach and like take pics together. And I also feel like that's the best content that performs for me. So I love like the pink aesthetic that I have going on Instagram. Love that. And then on TikTok, I mean, I'm still fairly new to TikTok, I feel. And it's mostly I want to say more beauty content just because I feel like TikTok is more of a place to like have a conversation. So I definitely enjoy Instagram content more, I will say. Like I do like TikTok, but I like taking pictures. I think I'm still more old school when it comes to content creation. Like, can we bring the pictures back, please?
100%. I much prefer pictures. I like TikTok in the sense of like me and my friends are having conversations on TikTok all day, like sending each other videos back and forth
Yeah.
and like laughing and whatever. But creating content is so much harder for me on TikTok because I am a picture person and I don't naturally think to like record my life in videos and share
Yeah.
it. It's
And
just not.
I feel like girls make it look so effortless and easy. And they're like, oh, just get B-roll content of everything. And I'm like, but I'm at home working all day. Like, what? Like,
Literally.
I see so many like aesthetic like day in my life, and I'm like, can't relate. I'm literally like in sweats and a crop top, no makeup, hair is not done. Like that's not like I don't understand the whole thing of like being super aesthetic on TikTok. Like again, could not be me. But I
Yeah.
will say it's interesting because like it's kind of like you said, as a content creator, I prefer Instagram and pictures, but as a viewer, I do prefer TikTok, I will say.
Yeah. No, me too. I think I'm the same way. But no, for me, the days in my life, like, what do you want me to do? Just put my phone up here and record me as I'm doing this? Like,
Right.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
working. I'm staring at a computer screen
for
all
eight
day. Like
hours, exactly.
sometimes I'm talking on a mic, but like other times I'm literally just reading
Yeah.
contracts all day. Like I promise it's not that fun.
Yeah, I do feel like those videos are not realistic. Like, and then I don't want to say it's cringe because I don't want to shit on anybody that does that kind of content because it is very beautiful. But I think the idea of just like putting my tripod in front of my bed and like pretending to wake up. Like I cannot wrap my head around it.
I've
Like
done it a few times, but it just it's not that's not what my real
just like
morning routine
pretend
looks
to
like.
wake up, like the fake yawn. Like I can't. I actually cannot.
No, I've done it a few times, but it just it doesn't feel natural to me at all. So yeah, it's not. I don't enjoy that kind of content either. I'd rather go back to pictures. Like
Yeah.
give me pictures back on Instagram, please. I'm glad that little by
Oh,
little it seems like we're starting to, but it's just
I don't even know. Honestly, I feel like I'm in my flop era right now with Instagram. Honestly,
I
like it
think we
hasn't.
all are. Honestly, same.
And I hate that for you. I don't want to say that makes me happy, but like I am happy that we're on this together. And I've chatted to other influencers too that's kind of expressed the same thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in my flop era. Like it's been really difficult. I feel like at one point Instagram was like amazing and my content was like popping off, and now it's not as much. So it is a little bit challenging sometimes to see the platform that you're using so much starting to kind of fail, I guess. But
Yeah.
what can we do?
No, it's been really hard to navigate, and I can't imagine for you who this is like somewhat of your
Yeah,
income. Like
it
for
is.
me,
Yeah.
it's I make money off of it, but it's mostly for fun. Where like as for you, it is part of your career, part of your job. Like it is really hard. I was struggling so much with that earlier. Like now it helps that I have other things going on, and yeah, I don't make money off of this podcast, but it's like the most fun form of social media for me, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, it has been it's really hard when it's like you put so much effort into your content and you feel like it's not being rewarded
Nobody
and
sees it. Yeah. I mean, I think that brands are understanding full transparency. Like it hasn't affected me
they are.
financially. Thank God. Like I'm still pretty
Yeah,
much
I think brands are
making
really
my
good about
money.
it.
Yeah, but in terms of like the content itself, like I'll post something and oh my gosh, I have to like hide the likes, and it's just it's been rough. But I also feel like sometimes, and I tell this to my friend all the time, I'm like maybe it's time for like a rebranding. Like maybe it's like content I'm putting out. Like maybe I need to go back to like the aesthetic pink feed that I used to have, you know? I think trying to like switch things up sometimes helps. Like at one point, I think photo dumps were doing really well for me, but now that's not working. So now I need to figure out, okay, what's the next thing that's going to work on my feed? You know, it's kind of like a game. You need to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. I think yeah, we were talking about that earlier, like being willing to pivot and try new things. You kind of just have to keep it interesting, keep it fresh. And also I think the most important thing is like putting out the content that you want to create. Like don't do it because it's working for other people. Like the whole like
Yeah.
Alex Earl get ready thing. Like if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. Don't do it just to like because it's working for her. It's not going to
Yeah.
work for you because your audience is going to know that it's not authentic to you. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you have to create the content that you want to create and that you want to see as a consumer, and being willing to play it up and change it up and try new things to figure out what that is, but
100%.
as long as it's what you want, because then your audience is going to see that and want to
Yeah, and then
watch
you also don't want to be creating the same content as everybody else. Like the whole get ready with me thing. Like if I see get ready with me, I'm flipping to the next video. Like I've had it. Like and it was I still create those videos too, by the way. I'm just
it. Same.
saying, like
I do it every once in a while too, but like
same, yeah. But it's like, oh my gosh, how many get ready with me are we gonna fucking have?
no, it is, or like now I'm getting to the point where like every video is the same TikTok
Get ready with
audio. No, we're the same
oh,
sound,
the
and it's like
audio.
500 versions of the same, and like the people like the on my For You page. I'm like, my goodness, like yeah, I've seen it
Yeah,
twice. Like we're good.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah,
like
totally.
or then I feel like I have to like, okay, how can I make this audio work for my content? I'm like,
Yes.
go
You're like,
away. Like this
you're
is
like,
not
it's
important.
trending. It's
This is
trending. I
not,
have to use it.
like this literally will do nothing for me. But then I feel compelled to do it. No, I feel that for people who want to start working with brands, and like what is the most important pieces of advice you have, like whether it's like a contract negotiation thing or knowing your rates, like for people who are just starting to gain traction, brands want to work with them but they don't know what to look for in these deals, what do you recommend?
Well, I think when you're starting out, I think it's I mean, I think it's first of all like you need to be genuine about it. If you really don't have a following, I don't feel like you can be like expecting payment off the bat. I did gifting for the longest time. Honestly, I think I did gifting until like 2021, or I think even last year. I think 2022 was the first time where I'm like, okay, I'm getting money. Like this is, I consider this a job. So if you're first starting out, it's important to just make relationships with brands. And I did that for the longest time. Like I would work with, I want to say like 8 to 7 brands per month. And I just focused on creating a relationship with them to the point where they wanted to keep working with me and then they started paying me. So I think that worked really well for me. I think also, when you're sharing your rate with a brand, I always like to let them know that I'm open to negotiating. Because being on the other side of that, since I also work in influencer marketing, I feel like if a influencer or their manager isn't really willing to negotiate with me, I'm kind of like, okay, it's a dead deal. But if your creator's letting me know that like their price is negotiable, I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we can work out. So I think that is also something that really works for me as well. And then in terms of contract, I think a lot of people aren't aware of like usage rights. And I had no idea like I didn't understand any type of usage rights before I worked at Dr. Dennis, to be completely honest. I would always just like scan the contract, sign it, boom, done. Sometimes I still do that, which is really bad.
Don't do that, dude.
No,
Literally the
but
worst thing you could do.
I literally
You
signed the
were doing
contract today.
you were doing so well, and I was like, I love that you like learned that from your job and you implement into it now. Like I was literally like, you're doing so well. I love this. The lawyer side of
I
me.
know. But I definitely like will like scan through it, but then my eyes always go to usage rights because you don't want a brand to take advantage of you, and then you also don't want to sign something that wasn't mentioned to you before.
Yeah, you
So I think
have to
that's
make
really,
sure.
yeah, reading your contract is important. I mean, again, like of course I read my contracts, sometimes I'll skim through them, but just knowing what you're signing is definitely important. And then I think in terms of like getting, I guess, brand deals, I think your pitch is very important too. Like I I get a lot of pitches from creators, obviously, like because I work for a skincare company. And the ones that are long and the ones that you can tell it's just like a template are the ones that I'm not interested in. I like the kinds of creators who reach out to me and say, I want to work with you. I love your brand. Here's my handle. Here is an example of a piece of content I created using one of the Dr. Dennis Rose products. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me see that. So I feel like if you're off the bat, like wanting, products for free, you kind of have to explain why you would create
Yeah,
good content for them.
agreed. Yeah. No, as a manager and as an influencer myself and also as a lawyer, like the number one thing is make sure you know what you're signing and review your contracts. And
Yeah.
if you don't understand, ask someone for help. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I wanted to go into it. But yeah, I think the pitch is so important. And I love that you learned that from being in the influencer marketing role at your job. You have been able to improve
Yeah.
how you react and reach out to brands and work with brands, and it has benefited you. I think that's something that people don't value. Like it's okay to not do it full time either at all or not yet. There's so much you could learn. All these other skills are transferable. Even if you like you work in influencer marketing, but even me as a lawyer, like as a law student, it helped me as a content creator. It actually ended up pushing me to pursue doing it together. But that made me a better influencer because like, oh, like I can negotiate a contract. I learned that in law
Yeah.
school that you should.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that I wanted to make a note that helped you. But yeah, number one thing is not just reviewing the contract and understanding what you're signing and things like usage rights and exclusivity, but just the pitch is so important. You need to tell them why you want to work with them, not just, oh my God, I love your brand. I would love to work with you. Here's my media kit. Like, okay,
That
cool.
doesn't
Like,
work anymore. Yeah. I hate when,
why should the
yeah.
brand work with you? Like why, like
So,
I don't share rates right away. I don't share media kit right away. I'm like,
oh,
this is why I love your brand. I've been using it forever, or I may have never used it before, but I really want to. And this is how I can incorporate it into my content. This is what
yeah.
I could provide you with. And then
Yeah.
you start the conversation and build the relationship. I think relationship building is so, so important.
And I will say, which, I mean, I think a lot of creators might disagree with me, but media kits don't do shit for me. Like
Oh, I don't create them. I
I
don't
don't
send them. I
have a
don't place
media
them. I
kit.
don't
I
have
don't
one.
need one. When I ask a influencer for her rate and she sends me a media kit, in my eyes, it's kind of like, okay, are you just like too lazy to give me the exact rate I'm looking for? And then 99% of the time, the rate that I want isn't even on there. Like for example, a lot of times we will just request like raw footage. So we just want the video and then our team will edit it. That's not on their media kit. So it's like, did you not read my email? Like, I am very turned off by media kits. I don't like them. I don't have one myself, and I'm not about it. And I think the email we were just talking about before, like the long templates of like, I love your brand, let's collab. I think that worked really well 3 years ago. That doesn't work anymore because there are so many influencers on email, on DMs. We get a lot of DMs from like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds who are like, I'm a UGC creator. And now, UGC creator is like the new thing. UGC this, UGC that. I'm a creator. And it's like, there's so many people begging for product, not just in Dr. Gross, in every single brand, that it's like the emails are overwhelming, and those kinds of emails just don't work anymore. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's so funny. The UGC, and you say you guys ask for raw footage. That is
Mhm.
UGC. But yeah, I don't create media kits. I don't send them as an influencer manager for my clients. If they ask for a rate, I'm like, what's your budget?
Just type it out.
I
Right.
I want to see what their budget is first, because maybe there's more there. And if we send a number and they actually were willing to offer us a lot more, guess what? They're going to take what we said. So like, don't do that. So I always try to ask for a budget first, and if they really won't give us a budget, then I will start a little higher than my rate, knowing it's going to be negotiated down, because they're always going to negotiate, and you should always negotiate. And then yeah, and I break down the rates. I'm like, this is what it is for this. This
Yeah.
is like what usage rights. This is exclusivity. This is name, image, and likeness. If you want a package, we're willing to work with you on that. I can do this for a package when a full whatever would be this, like, and I'm already letting them know, hey, I'm negotiating things and I'm cutting back things to make it more fair to you, but also like, we're gonna get paid.
Yeah.
And I think being willing to work around it and negotiate, and that's why building that relationship with that brand is so helpful, because I'm also a lot more willing to take less if a brand that I like, knowing that we could
Yeah.
probably get a longer term partnership, versus a
100%.
brand that I really don't want to work with, or that the client is like, it's a really good deal for my content, but like I don't
Yeah.
really like the how we're being talked to. We're not gonna we're gonna be a little bit harder,
Yeah.
and it's that relationship building is so important, because that's why media kits suck too. Not just that it's not even like the full rate on there, is that depending on the partner, the brand and the person, you might be willing to change it up. You never know. So then you're like
Yeah.
stuck to that number that you don't even know the last time you reviewed the media kit.
Yeah. And then also, like, a lot of the media kits have insights and engagement rate, and that stuff is changing weekly. Like, especially with the crazy algorithm of Instagram, like, I don't trust that. And then on top of that, like, you could put any number you want in a media kit that's not accurate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so funny looking back at media kits, how we used to put like a chart or like a graph or the number of followers we have, and like analytics, like that literally was so outdated every time. Like it
I
just
know,
didn't make a
right.
sense.
And then a lot of creators don't realize that brands use specific platforms to track those things. So, like, right now, if I wanted to check your engagement rate, I could use the platform that we use, and that would tell me, it would give me a breakdown of your audience and your engagement rate, etc. And like how well, like if you tag us in a piece of content, that would tell me how well it performed. So like the media kit to us, it's giving nothing because we can access that information ourselves. And a lot of creators don't realize that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think people realize that brands can track it too. Just like they ask out of courtesy, but they can track it too. So that's a good
100%. Yeah.
point. Yeah. I yeah, the pitch email, like it I I'm curious to know like what you send in a pitch email yourself to brands, having been on the influencer side, because I
Mhm.
know what works as a manager, but it is still a little bit of it's not a long email, it's 3 paragraphs, but it's still like it's an like I introduce the girl first, and then I say why they like the brand, and then I say what they can create for you. So it's still like slightly longer, but it's just I want it to be like I want them to get all the information, so when they go look at the profile, they know what they're looking for already, and they're seeing the vision. But I'm curious to see like what you guys like to get on the brand side and what you send as an influencer, just for my own client's sake. um and I love, and that's why I love like having a podcast and like talking to different creators all the time, is like always being willing to evolve and change and try new
Yeah.
things.
I think it's for me, like, through work, I like seeing creators who will send me an email, but like actually talk about our products. Like, oh my gosh, I've been using the peel pads for X amount of time, and this is what it's done for my skin. And
I
so
have
to me,
3
like,
boxes now.
oh my God, they're so good, aren't they? Though.
No, like I had one already, and then I think you sent me like a box, and then another one arrived at my door, and I was like, now I have
Yes.
literally like 90 of these,
Yes.
and I am so happy.
We send them monthly because you're supposed to use them every single day. But I think
Yeah,
I use them like 3 to 4 times a week, honestly, but they are great. But again, like if an
yeah,
influencer
twice.
is sharing how much she loves a product, that to me is like, okay, like she's a brand fan. Because I've also gotten emails and it's like, hey, like I love your brand. And then like it says like Insta brand name or it says the wrong brand. And I'm like, girl, like you literally just copied and pasted,
It's
which is
okay to use
fine,
a
which
template, but
is
you have to
fine.
work the template. It's not
Right,
just a
like,
copy
edit
paste.
it, and, like, tailor it, you know? Like, it's
Oh
so
my
crazy.
god.
I've gotten a lot of those, and it's like, this is kind of embarrassing, like, it's not happening, I'm not gonna send you
That's so
product,
funny.
yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I use a template. I have like, but yeah, you always tailor it to each individual brand and each individual client.
Yeah.
Um,
As an
that's so
influencer
funny.
as an influencer, the way that I reach out is pretty much, like, similar to how I like to be reached out to. So, a brief introduction. So, for example, if I'm doing, like, if I wanna reach out to a hotel because I love doing hotel collabs, I always list examples of previous hotel collabs that I've had, and I feel like that works for me. So, like, I recently
Yeah.
went on Virgin Cruises.
I want to go on a Virgin trip
Literally,
so
oh my
bad.
gosh, it was like the best trip ever. And I think the reason why I got the collab is because the way that I pitched myself. You know, I let them know that I worked for a cruise line for 3 years, and then I gave examples of like hotel collaboration. So I think providing examples is what really helps.
Yeah, making it personal, why you're the right person for this campaign. I think that's so, so important. I'm glad you brought that up. I saw that you went on it, and my one of my sorority sisters, my G Big, did
Mhm.
a voyage or a like Virgin Voyage partnership too, and like both of you guys did it, and I was like, oh my god, I want to go
Oh my
so
God,
bad.
I
I pitched
would.
myself to them, but I've never worked with a hotel or a cruise ship or like any of those. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try because I'm always traveling. I'm always trying to go. Like, I'll see if I can make it work because I that would be like a dream trip. I've never done Virgin Voyage cruises, but
Mhm.
I love
That was
cruises
my first time.
and and I like Virgin. Like I've flown Virgin Airlines and I really like one of my best experiences with any travel company has been with Virgin. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely an amazing trip, and to be honest, like, obviously, like I mentioned, I worked for another cruise line, and, like, I was always, like, die hard for the brand I worked for, and after I went on Virgin, I was like, "Yeah, yep, it's changing, like, I'm die hard for Virgin," just because it was so great, the staff was amazing, like, it wasn't as packed as a typical cruise is. It was an amazing experience, honestly.
Yeah. No kids too. Yeah, I love
Yep.
Norwegian. Norwegian is like normally what we fly when we go on cruises with, but I know I'll prefer Virgin so much more. So I'm like dying to go. Like, who
Yeah,
wants
you
to go on a cruise with me so we can go? I just even if I have to pay for it the first time, I want to go. Like I really just want to go and try Virgin. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was amazing. I think there's so much good info here for people who want to get into social media or want to be an influencer or marketing. Where can everyone find you? Pimp yourself out so they can go check you out.
You can find me on Instagram, Danny Ponce. That's Danny's with 2 N's. And then on TikTok, it's Danny Ponce _. And then my storefront is actually dannyponce.com, which I actually just created myself.
Cool. I will link everything in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week.